La 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 blah 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 blah.
I'm questioning why I love to do these with you so much.
Blah 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 blah. I don't know why you even talk to me. I mean,
I mean, why? I don't know.
how did I become someone that you think is cool? I have no idea. This old man that you like to hang out with is crazy. Yeah.
I gotta ask the people in my groups. I'm always talking about how much I love Dr. McGrath.
There you have it, folks. My new love,
I'm a
Michaela. And I could say that knowing your husband, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, she loves him."
Okay, he would probably lead the fan group too. Yeah, 100%. He's like, Dr. McGrath makes you do what? Makes you do this exposure? Absolutely, hell yeah.
Although I don't make you, you choose to.
Remember? That's true. That's true. Sorry. Yes, that is true.
Don't make people. I don't want to scare people away on this ERP idea. Yeah.
I willingly make these decisions. Yes.
Well, welcome once again, everybody, to your Wednesday night webinar brought to you by NOCD. NOCD is an online platform for the treatment of obsessive compulsive and related conditions. If you're looking for help for OCD, check us out at nocd.com. That's NOCD.com. And, we do work here in the US of A, and we do work in Canada and Australia and the UK as well. And we take insurance here in the US, and more insurances all the time that we're working on. So love to work with you if we can, and let us know what's going on. Already bunches of questions that have come in tonight, so that's always fun. Mackenzie is with me tonight. Mackenzie, tell everybody who you are and why you are here.
I'm Mackenzie. I am a support group facilitator for NOCD. I also have OCD. Yay. So exciting. Just kidding. But yes, and I did ERP therapy through NOCD years ago, and now I get to work, and it doesn't feel like work because I love it so much.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
We're glad to have you, Mackenzie. Let's bring up some Q's and A's. Well, we'll bring up the Q's. We'll give the A's. How's that sound? Yeah.
Sounds good.
Michaela says you have an intense fear of being a sexual predator and have magical thinking tied to having to wear a certain bracelet in public to prevent harm from occurring. Any tips on this? Mackenzie, you never had thoughts like that, so I don't know if you wanted to, just say what the heck, or maybe you did. I don't know.
I just wish it was that easy, like to wear a bracelet. OCD tries to convince us that it is, right? Yeah. Oh, it'll make everything go away. Yeah, I think, and Dr. McGrath, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's important. Like,
you're wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to answer first, and then I would? Okay, never mind. Go right ahead.
I set myself up for these things.
You really did. That was really
that OCD is ego dystonic, so it goes after what we value, and the reason things bother us so much, and kind of feel like I'm giving reassurance, but the reason things bother us so much is if we were these things, if we were these terrible people, if we it wouldn't bother us. We wouldn't be afraid of it. So I feel like it's just why OCD works so well, is because it takes these things that scare us because they're completely opposite of who we are as an individual, and weaponizes them against us.
Right. It is kind of a jerk, isn't it?
It really is. The spawn of Satan. That's what it is.
Mackenzie, I know that you have feared bad things happening to people in your life.
Yes.
And of course, bad things have happened at times to people in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
OCD says the reason that the times it didn't happen is because you did the compulsion, and the reasons that it did happen was you must have screwed up the compulsion. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And this is where the fangirl for Dr. McGrath stems from, is the video about the ceiling falling, right?
May it collapse upon me now.
Because it's such a good, like, it's an aha moment of, and I literally say this in all my groups. I'm like, if his ceiling collapsed, it would be a really shitty coincidence and a really shitty ceiling, but it wouldn't be because OCD is right. And OCD just always tries to like say, okay, well, see, it happened. It's because I was right. No, it's because in life, good things happen, bad things happen. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Right?
You know, that cookie is so crumbly that I don't know how anybody eats that cookie, because there's more crumbles all over the place than I've ever seen in my life. It's absolutely crazy. But the ceiling collapsing on me has probably been attempted 10,000 times at this point, and as of yet, still not happening. But I like what you said. The first time you saw that, what was your reaction to that?
The first time I saw that video?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the first time I saw that, I resonated with it because I used to always think if I thought about death, if I drew, one of my first exposures was drawing this terrible, like, gravestone of myself. And like, that was the scariest thing in the world because I thought it was going to come true. Mm-hmm. So I think resonating with it, then like hearing it out loud, it's probably something about your sarcasm too, right? But like you think about it and it's like, it doesn't it doesn't. And I think, you've also said like sports teams, like if it were that easy, we could just be like, I'm a Giants fan. Like if I could take the Giants to the Super Bowl by doing something 3 times, like I would have done it already. Yeah. But I think it just kind of takes power back.
Did you say I'm sarcastic? Because I take offense to that. I don't know.
No, I think you're sarcastic.
I'm sorry.
Ow!
I got you.
OCD. I'll just
And I like the fact that Michaela there talks about this magical bracelet. Isn't OCD humorous in this idea that these magical things really do stop or prevent things from happening, right? I give the example sometimes, if you ever go to the NOCD downtown Chicago offices, there's a guy who walks around with a 30-foot bamboo pole. And if you ask him why, he says, well, it keeps the giraffes away. And if you say there's no giraffes in Chicago, he'll say, I know, the pole works very well, doesn't it? Right. And that's the same kind of logic there, right? That we hold on to. This thing really is helpful and good and needs to occur. And of course, it's just simply not true.
Oh my gosh, I need to experience that. That's funny. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Love it. Alyssa says, when you start to feel tired of doing ERP daily, but then there is no other gold standard option for OCD, how do you keep up with treatment stamina? So you had to do this, right? I'm betting there were days that you're like, oh God, if I have to do another ERP, I'm going to scream. What motivated you to keep going and continue to just work on this all the time?
Yeah. Okay. So I will tell you exactly what motivates me still is I really try. I know in therapy, when we talk about it as homework, like, or something to begin with, but I think thinking about ERP therapy as a lifestyle change versus like homework and like these specific things, like after therapy, right? Once the training wheels come off and I'm by myself and I'm doing these things, like, we don't get to just do one exposure and then everything's better. It's to make the choice to continuously lean into discomfort and uncertainty. So I think for me, when those things come up, when those decisions happen, those moments where like I have to say, okay, am I going to lean into this or not? To keep up that stamina, like one keeps me where I want to be and the other takes me backwards. And so that's how I like to look at things. Okay, well, I can do this compulsion, but this is going to take me backwards. It's not going to help me. It's not going to keep me where I am. It's not going to, keep me in this place of recovery. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And, Alyssa, I think you bring up a good point here, because there is, of course, such a difficulty, especially when you're first starting out with ERP, of just, it's like, it feels like a slug probably, right? Like, oh my gosh, how much do I have to do this? But when you really want to get good at something, you practice it, right? And you practice it in the right way. That's what we want. Because practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes routine. The more you practice something a certain way, the more likely you are to do it that way again in the future. So you have two options for practice. The practice is doing the compulsions, which is going to make you do more compulsions, or the practice is doing response prevention, which is going to lead you to not do the compulsions. Now, the response prevention is harder in the moment, but better in the long term. The compulsions are easier in the moment, but worse for you in the long term. So what's best for you? Hopefully you decide the short-term discomfort is best for you, because the long term you have opportunities for changing behavior. But we know this, if you go for the short-term comfort, it usually just leads to more long-term discomfort in this situation. Mackenzie, did you ever do enough compulsions to the point where you felt great?
Absolutely. I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah, right. Every day. Yeah.
Never. And that's always that it's so annoying, because every time OCD tries to convince you can get to the end, and like it'll say, congratulations, I will never make you think a pothole was a person ever again. Great job. Like it doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, we still think it will. Like that's how it just it's so annoying. But no, I have never done enough compulsions that.
You seem to have some fans. People are like, yes, Mackenzie is awesome, they're saying, which means they don't really know you very well. But that was nice of them to say.
Clinton, Alyssa, Sophia. Hi.
Very nice. Quentin and everybody there. So but you have groupies now, it says.
They can attest to how many times I tell this ceiling story too. They can.
Yeah.
And the bear hunt. The bear hunt.
Okay. This will show you how old I am. Maybe this means something. I don't really know. It says also definitely a Dr. McGrath, STAN.
Oh, Stan. Yeah. It's like
I'm so old. I'm like, what's a Stan?
Well, I'm 32. I still like am not up on the lingo wholeheartedly, but I do think it's a good thing. I mean, it's like a fan, like a group.
All right.
Fan. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if someone could educate this old man on some lingo, that would be great, because I have no idea what that means.
I'm not guaranteeing I'm right, but I'm pretty sure it's like fan, like a fan.
All right. Yeah. Ta says, can you please talk about magical thinking? I have a threshold compulsion. If I think about something bad going through a door or pressing a button, that my thought might come true, how to ERP this? Well, boy, do we see this one, right? This idea that you have to do an action with a pure thought or intention. Otherwise, completing an action without that pure thought of intention will mean that you buy into it, you want it, or maybe make it more likely to occur, becomes the beliefs that are often associated with those things. That would, of course, really destroy the entire earth if that was the case, because otherwise all of us would always have to have the right intentions at every time that we ever do anything. And because if we didn't, then every bad thing that's ever happened in the world is due to the fact that somebody crossed a threshold without a good intention, right? Now, when you say it like that, that doesn't sound logical whatsoever. But let's also remember, OCD ain't logical, right? OCD has its own logic that it does. It's not a logical issue. So, one of the things is OCD will get you to believe all sorts of things that if you tried to convince anyone else of, they would go, what was that? And that's where I want you to kind of recognize that this is one of those situations, I think, that if you were to say to anyone else, now remember, when you leave this room, have a good intention in your head when you cross that threshold, or else something terrible might happen, they would look at you and go, what the hell are you talking about? Right? But in OCD logic, boy, does it make sense. And Mackenzie, I'm assuming that you have kind of this, I think of it as almost the two minds philosophy of things, right? You've got your, all right, I know that this is how the world works, but you've also got your, yeah, but what if mind that's also throwing things at you. And how do you live with those two minds, right? How do you deal with that?
OCD, I think one of the most frustrating things it does is when we're in the midst of it, when we're in that spiral out place, like we know it's illogical. But the fear is so real. The what ifs are so loud. And I think, with ERP therapy, I've learned that the value, right, and that it has to outweigh the fear. And so I think just really leaning into that idea of good things happen, bad things happen, something may or may not happen. I have to choose to sit with the uncertainty, because there's literally inherent risk in absolutely everything.
Yeah, just
And
sitting here, the ceiling could collapse on me, right? I mean, so there's even a risk in that.
yep.
Yeah. So yeah, one never knows. One never has a guarantee. OCD makes a false promise. OCD says you can have a guarantee, right? Absolutely, that is what OCD says. But we know that it's just simply absolutely not true. And so if that's the case, we have to decide, do we believe in the false promises of OCD? And Mackenzie, I may have said this to you before, but I look at OCD like Lucy holding the football, right? And the false promise is, hey, Charlie Brown, this time I will let you kick the football. And that's the false promise. And Charlie Brown is like, all right, this is the time. I just feel it now. This is the one. I'm going to do it. And finally, we're going to fulfill this thing, and it's going to be done, and it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be great. And we go, and just as we kick the football, Lucy does this. Charlie Brown goes flying through the air. And once again, we don't kick the football, and we don't get to fulfill the promise. But Lucy says, of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest, because you keep falling for this, and I'm going to keep telling you this will be the time, and you're going to keep doing this, and every single time I'm going to pick up that football. But Charlie Brown is instilled with this hope that just maybe this is the time that I'll get to do it.
Yeah, and it's that idea of like, what if this time it's right? Yeah, what if this time it really is, I can really prevent this. I can really, yeah, I think it's one of the most frustrating pieces about it is it tries so hard to like really just hone in on that. If you just do this, if you just do that. I don't know why it's so convincing. Maybe you can tell me.
I think it's convincing because it activates the fight, flight, or freeze response. And you've learned your entire life, whenever that's activated, you're actually in danger. And it's best for you to do something right away to get yourself out of danger. So when it's activated by OCD, why would you think or feel or respond any different than if it was activated by a lion chasing after you or something like that? They all seem dangerous. They all seem dreadful. And therefore, they all seem like the best thing to do is to try to escape this thing if possible. And then OCD offers you an out. You do this compulsion. That's your escape. So you better do it. And then when you do it and you get that sense of relief, now you're kind of in this flywheel, right? It's just, you're a hamster just going around and around and around and around. It's the hamster wheel of hell that you're stuck on, hoping that you're going to be able to get off and everything's going to be fine, but you never actually get off. So
yeah, so we lived in South Carolina, and they have palmetto bugs, which if you don't know what that is, it's just a giant.
I lived in Mississippi. They're massive.
But also like it's a roach. Like calling it a palmetto bug makes it no better. Like it's
a roach on steroids.
Oh my gosh. And when you miss them, you don't want to squish it because they're so big, and like you miss it and it's just crawling around. But we moved to South Carolina and they were everywhere, and they were like, welcome to South Carolina. And I was like, I'm like, no. But I used to I'd find one in the cabinets all the time, or like droppings, and I would take everything out and I would put everything in the dishwasher. I'd wash every counter, every cabinet, and I would put everything back, and then sometimes 10 minutes later there would be another one, and I would literally do the whole, and my OCD was so, and I was like, this is so illogical. I'm gonna live and die in this one spot forever if I don't stop this, if I don't stop doing this. But the fear was so real and so loud. It's just that moment of realizing something is so illogical, but I didn't have the tools at the time to stop the cycle. And I washed those dishes. I went through 2 dishwashers, actually. Oops. I broke 2.
Not surprising to hear the amount of people I've heard who have broken either doors, door locks, handles, plumbing handles, all those things, because they keep checking them so much to see if they're off or on, or light switches that, that crack and things because of this. And then that feels like your worst thing in the world has now come true. Now, look, there actually is damage to the plumbing. OCD will never, ever, ever, ever take the blame for it, though. OCD is going to be like, well, if you just turned it off the right way the first time, none of this would have happened. But no, you don't know how to do it, so we have to keep checking. It's your fault that it broke, right? I've never once heard OCD. It's the biggest gaslighter in the world, right? I mean, never once has OCD taken the blame for a damn thing.
No, and also the problems weren't there until OCD, like when I would wash my hands compulsively, like, oh, you won't get sick if you wash them one more time, nobody will get sick. Then I'd end up in the ER with an infection in my hands and need an antibiotic because I had washed them till they cracked and bled. Or I always talk about driving OCD too, like trying to turn around and like terrible. I am a horrible driver. Never in my life have I been flipped off more than we live in New England, and it's like a daily occurrence. Like people just love to give me the bird finger. And like, that's valid.
Don't drive with Mackenzie as well.
No. Okay. I'm just not a great driver. I'm not like an aggressive. Anyway, but turning around constantly, I'm going to end up in an accident because I'm trying to turn around.
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This is a good one. And I'm so glad to have you on tonight to answer this, because Emil says, I know we have to accept uncertainty with OCD. Does that mean that we have to accept that our fear taboo thing can be true?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe not, right? It may or may not be, right? And so there's a difference between acceptance of something potentially being true or not true and it actually being true or not true, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have OCD, but I accept the fact that I might run somebody over with my car. Just to use your example, Mackenzie, of your fears of potholes, where you want to drive around the block and every pothole and everything like that. I don't do that when I hit a pothole, but I do accept that I could run somebody over with my car, right? And I think for you, treatment probably had to involve your learning to accept the fact that, okay, when I drive, there's inherent risk in driving, and someday I could hit someone with my car, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also, that is like the biggest, the fact that I think something that stumps the most people in group is that you don't have OCD, by the way.
Me?
Yeah. I think people just assume because you know so much about it that you have it. And I think that's a compliment.
It's in fact the greatest compliment I've ever received in my life is, I can't believe you don't have OCD because you sure do think like you do.
Yeah.
No better compliment than that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I have to, like, there's inherent risk in everything. I'm always like, if I give my kids grapes without cutting them up, they could choke on them. I mean, and then there's inherent risk in absolutely everything we do. And OCD picks these little things and says like, yeah.
I'll give you the secret to why people think I have OCD and why I think like I have OCD.
Okay.
And it is because no matter what you tell me, I have one thing that I think about is, and what could be the worst thing that could happen with that? And then I say that out loud. And then I think, and then what could be the worst thing that would happen? And then what could be the worst thing? And that's how you can fake having OCD, or you can seem like you have OCD, right? Because all you do is think about what's the next worst thing in the world that could potentially happen with that. So I've gone into my diatribes on these before about like, I'm going to go to the car one, and I know you love this one. And so and that's why I'm going to keep doing it, because I just love triggering you so much. But we could get home after a drive, and then I could get down on the ground and look underneath the car and spend 20 minutes looking under the car. And I'm going to watch as the light shifts, as the sun's moving, and be like, wait, now the light's at a different angle. Maybe there's a body there, and that's why the light shifted, because maybe it's actually a person underneath the car and they're moving slightly, and that's why the light is now in a different direction than it was. And I'll be like, Mackenzie, go get a broom. Give me a broom. And I'm going to sweep it under the car. But what if it touches the bottom of the car? I'm like, wait, was that the car or was that a person? How can I know for sure if that was the case? And it made a sound. And was that a dung sound like it hit the car? Or was that a sound like it was a person going, oh, like I hit them in the head with it? So now maybe I'll get under the car and I'll try to feel around under, and I'll do all of these things. And how can I be convinced that there's not a dead body under the car? 100%.
Yeah. No, but, and I wholeheart checking the car. Like that one time, Montana, my husband, caught me on the Ring camera, like looking or all. He's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I was looking for hair. I was looking for blood. I was looking for a dent. I was looking for a scratch. But yeah, but I think it's also empathy. You have empathy and understand like why it's so distressing. Too.
Yeah. And that piece as well. And you have to have empathy in this, right? You have to develop that rapport with people. If I'm going to expect people to share with me some of their deepest, darkest secrets, the things they think are most taboo in the world, sometimes things they think that no one else in the world has ever thought before. And then when they tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that 78 times, but you got to build that rapport. You have to have that empathy, and you have to be able to be in the mindset of somebody who you're working with to understand, oh yeah, I totally get why you would think that way. That actually from an OCD logic sense makes total sense.
Yeah. That's my favorite part about group. I swear, when people are like, you'll have all these little Zoom boxes and someone's like, I'm going to share something, like you're going to think I'm crazy. Like this is really hard. And then they share it. And at all the Zoom boxes, people are like, like
been there, done that.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's not as creative as it thinks it is. It's really not.
Let's see what else we got. I'm so used to telling myself, no, I don't think that way. Now I have to redo the way I speak internally to my OCD, but it's so difficult to start. Any good tips on quick or other maybe not thoughts? I don't even think you need to tell yourself that you don't think that way. I think that you can just accept that's the way my brain goes, right? I have weird, wacky thoughts. I promise you that when I'm driving and I see someone on a bicycle, I assign a point value to them of how many points I would get if I ran them over with my car. I in no way need to redo that thought. I don't try to change that. I don't tell myself not to think that. I just don't care, right? That's where we want to get with treatment. Is it isn't about telling ourselves don't think this. And I think that's where people get stuck sometimes, because they think, oh, if I could just never have that thought again, that would be great, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful and lovely? Well, we don't get to have that. I apologize to everyone. I didn't make up the rules of the way our brains work, but let me tell you, the moment you hope to never have a thought again, you've just guaranteed that thought will be with you, and it will pop up randomly for the rest of your life.
Yeah, the point thing, because you told me that story like months ago. Now every time I see a person, I'm like, oh, I wonder how many points Dr. McGrath gives.
50 points. Yeah.
I always say, like, I have to go over a big bridge all the time. And my brain's like, what if I just drove my car off the bridge? Like, I'm not trying to say, okay, I'm just accepting the fact that maybe I want to drive my car. It's the maybe not, but I think it's just learning to like live with it. Like, that's a thought. I don't have control over it. It's there, and I'm going to keep driving over the bridge. Maybe I'll drive off it. Maybe I won't. But somebody was asking me the other day how to like describe that. And like the best thing I can, like the thoughts, you just learn to let the thoughts come along with you, like, and not try to analyze them. Like OCD, I think I go back to like a Criminal Minds episode, and if you put like a thought in the middle of the board, it would have all these little like strings attached, like, oh, you had this thought, this means this, and this means this. Like, no, we can just be like, it just be.
Yeah. That'll make that, which will 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 make that.
We'll just call it the OCD dance.
Yeah, it's the OCD Macarena, right? Yeah. And isn't it interesting? Many of them end up with, and then I'll be in jail, and my family will hate me, and I'll die, and it'll be terrible, and I'll be alone. and then I won't have the afterlife that I wanted, or something. Just, it's always those awful, horrible, worst case scenarios types of things. And then, of course, people say, but it does happen to some people. You're right. Shit happens to people, everyone. It just does. One of the things, sometimes I go into, as you know, Mackenzie, sometimes I stop into various support groups, and I was in one of them, and someone was talking about, somebody dying, and they felt bad because maybe they could have done some kind of ritual to prevent them. And I kind of stunned the group because I said, so then my wife would be alive today if I just had done a compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was kind of like, and I said, is it true? Right? Is that how it works? Am I to blame for Susan's death because I didn't do a compulsion? Or does shit happen sometimes? Right.
And I like what you say with that too, about like, so what should you have done? Never gotten married? Never.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because we're just trying to avoid all the bad, all the possibilities, all the things.
Yeah. I will never speak to another single female again, or who knows, right? It's just what do you do, right? Or do you just accept that, hey, guess what, stuff happens?
Well, and I think I've told you this too. Like, there was somebody once who said, like, oh, my OCD's worst case scenario was cancer, and then she got cancer. She's like, my OCD didn't go away.
No. It found something else to be afraid of.
Like, oh, shoot, you got cancer. Now I gotta think of something more.
Well, I gotta change our MO now, right? Yeah.
Dang it, that one's not. I can't do that one anymore.
Brett was talking about taking pills in a new way, and in doing so, he's worried about, what if he took the wrong pills or the wrong amount of pills? Do I just live with the doubt, even though I feel like my life is in danger? How many of your ERPs, Mackenzie, did you feel like your or your family's life was in danger that you just had to learn to live with the doubt?
Every single one.
All of them, maybe? All of them?
Yeah. All of the above.
Uh-huh.
All of the above. And there's a healthy level of concern, like in everything, but like then also I always say healthy level of concern, and then OCD enters the group chat, which right? Like, there's just, OCD is going to take anything and run with it. But yeah, everything I did, I remember when my compulsions, my exposures, like, it just started with me doing things. And then my therapist was like, okay, so now, like, let's drop something on the floor and give it to Ellie. And I was like, oh, no, what? No, that's too scary. I can't do that. No, I can't do that. Yeah. Everything feels like the end of the world, life or death.
In this kind of scenario, then, I have my little pill box, and I take my stuff every night, and every once in a while I'll look, and it's like, oh, I missed that one last night. Oh, guess what? It's never made me do compulsions about taking pills, right? Because I accept the fact that in general, I'm pretty good at that, but every once in a while I will goof something up or make a mistake, right? OCD does not accept you being a human. OCD wants you to be a machine. OCD wants you to be a robot with a program that is set, right? And that program must run flawlessly and be executed every single time in an exact way. And that's the way it is for OCD. And it does not accept whatsoever that you as a human are allowed to goof up once in a while.
Yeah, I would forget my head if it wasn't attached to my body. And so there are so many times where my OCD is like, I don't know how, I should get a pill because I just have a really bad memory. But also, like, I'm sure there's many times where I may have accidentally not taken it or taken it twice. Like, that also jumps to worst case scenario. Oh, you're going to die because you took a double dose of whatever medication. Like, well, it's not great, but I'm human. I mess up sometimes. It's just, it always jumps to like worst case.
Yeah. All right. Allie says, I have fear of losing things, especially when traveling. Leaving my seat and walking off the airplane is very scary. Do you have any suggestion tips for OCD and traveling? You know, Allie, I travel a ton, and this is one of my areas that I'm always like, okay, I've got my routine now, how I do it, right? I always know where my phone is, my iPad is, and my wallet is. Those are my things, right? And I do my check. I got my phone right there. I got my iPad, it's in there, and I got my wallet in there. And then I open up that little seat pocket in front of me there, and I check to make sure there's nothing in there. And then when I get up, I take a look at my seat to make sure there's nothing there. I've just developed a routine for me for traveling. I know that I don't want to leave something on a plane, right? And so I I have no problem with people developing a routine, but do you need to do it more than once is the question. Because once you go more than once, you're now in the realm of what OCD wants you to do versus a check just to make sure, right?
Yeah, I like this too because I think sometimes, like, I hate when people put me in a box, and I think sometimes we do that for ourselves too. Like, not everything is OCD. Like, the if we're doing something one time, like, we don't want to lose things.
Mhm.
We don't want, like, but when it becomes repetitive, obsessive, that it becomes
Right.
a problem. But my OCD and flying, oh geez, I have to battle that all the time.
When people have put you in a box, have anyone ever shipped you anywhere then, or do you just stay in the box?
I think there was many a times in my life where people wanted to just ship me. Uh, when I was on the webinar with you, like, a couple months ago, Montana was being loud. I could have put him in.
The noisy one? Yeah, the noisy webinar, as we like to refer to it. Yeah, I
Um,
remember that one. Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
I think there's always, OCD, like with traveling. Like,
Mhm.
I know mine comes in. I don't like to fly. I used to love it, but like my OCD latches on, and it'll be like, oh, I was flying to Georgia to go to my brother's fiance's wedding dress, like, shop thing. And I was like, if I die in a plane crash, was it worth it to go look at a wedding dress? Like, I have two kids. How dare? And I'm like, oh my gosh, OCD. You know what? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm going to get on this airplane and I'm going to go.
There you go.
It's hard. It pops up in lots of
Were
places.
they going to that "Say Yes to the Dress" shop that's on the TV? Is that where you guys went?
No, but she did
No.
say
Oh,
yes
okay.
to the dress. She did.
Oh, she did. Oh, well, congratulations. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I did go. So
Say no to the OCD. Maybe we could say something like
my
that.
God, I cannot.
I don't know. Yeah. OCD's dress would be really ugly, I think. Yeah.
It would be. And it would be like, then it would be like, oh no, am I actually wearing one or not?
Yeah, right. Who knows? What if it falls off? I have trouble with false memories and I have problems with seeing visions of stuff I don't want to happen or see in my head. Well, I will just say this. The more that you hope not to have them and the more that you fight having them, the more they will be there. So the best thing to do is, instead of not wanting them and fighting them and hoping you don't see them, is to work on accepting them, right? And again, like we said earlier, accepting something doesn't mean that you want it or that you like it. You just accept that it's there, right? I give the example on here. I've done it before. I've talked about my tinnitus. I accept the fact that I have tinnitus. I accept the fact that I hear a sound that nobody else in the world hears. I will give you all a demonstration now. Imagine if for the rest of your life you heard this.
Wait, that is so impressive.
Was that annoying?
Like, did you win all the breath holding contests? What? That was wild. Yes, I wanted to mute you, actually.
Yeah. I hear that 24/7.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
But you accept it.
I accept it.
That's how I always say, like, it's valid to be frustrated and exhausted and annoyed by OCD. Like, I always feel like the little air traffic control little wands where they like, I'm like, okay, this is a spam thought. This is a primary inbox thought. Like it's annoying, it's frustrating, but I accept it and I learn to manage it and navigate through it. But it is annoying.
Yeah.
Like it's its own version of that, whatever that was.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. So, you may have a thought or an image or an urge. I have a sound.
Yep.
You can do something to neutralize it, even for a moment. There's not a damn thing I can do about mine.
Somebody said you sound like a human vacuum cleaner.
Every time I do that, someone also replies, "My cats are going crazy right now."
Somebody said that too. I was just impressed with how long I was going. I was like,
thank you. Yeah.
Did he pause himself? Like, I don't know.
Are there any that you wanted to answer, Mackenzie? I'll let you, if you want to, feel free if you wanted to jump around, pick one. Yeah, if there's anything.
All my friends. That's like a support group over here. Where do I see? Oh, timeout. Hold on, times.
If you give me the time, I'll jump to it.
Okay. Well, I was trying to read. Well, there's like a fear of attraction one at 8:34. So how do you deal with when you have a fear of hearing people's names because you have a fear of feeling something random fears or fear of being attracted to the person?
Yeah. What's wrong with being attracted to someone?
No, nothing.
But OCD says, "Ooh, no, you shouldn't." OCD wants to control all of your feelings and all of your emotions and all of your bodily sensations and be like the arbiter of what you should or should not be experiencing, right?
Well, a relationship OCD like takes this and runs with it too. Like human nature, like people, you notice when people are attractive, and then OCD is like, oh, should you be married? Should you?
Right.
Is this right? Is this wrong? Like it just again like takes things and just. Right. Meanwhile, I'm drinking out of a One Direction cup. This is not my husband, but
Is that a dreamy person? I don't know. So
yeah, Niall. Yeah, You don't know who One Direction is?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Gosh.
Is it Stan? I don't know.
I'm a One Direction stan. Yeah, but it's an old band. I mean,
it's not an old band. I listen to old bands. It's not an old band.
It was 15 years ago.
Okay. The guys that are in the bands that I listen to and the women in the bands I listen to are in their like 70s. So yeah.
They're my age. So
okay. All right. If it's not Rush, Heart, or Yes, or Fuel, or Revis, I probably don't care.
Wait, so you don't care that Taylor Swift announced a new album today?
Did she? Oh, I didn't know. Oh no, there are some great new bands. Like Bad Omens is pretty awesome. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're pretty cool. And Sleep Token is very interesting. I've heard of them. Yeah.
Bad Omens sounds like a band OCD would tell me to run from.
Yes, probably OCD would say, "Do not listen to this band." And of course, Paul Melia, our theme song guy from when I do the solo shows, my buddy Paul over in Ireland, love him. So yeah, yeah. Good stuff out there. Yeah. Always fun. So, yeah, OCD says all names but this one are okay, right? Or all words but this word, or all sounds but this sound are okay. And if we hear this one, then we have to do a compulsion. We have to neutralize it. And if we don't, ooh, something bad might happen.
Oh, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
For $1, yeah, you can.
Okay.
Just, send it to me.
I'll Venmo you.
Thank you. All right.
So when we were just talking about this, but this was something I didn't know was OCD until. So would this be an example of trying to neutralize, or would it be avoidance in this sense? So like I used to have like a list of shows that I decided I could not watch because I'd be like 2 seasons in, and then one of the characters would get cancer, or the mom would die, and my brain was like, No,
Mhm.
turn it off. Can't watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Would that be avoidance? Would that be an example of avoidance, or is that
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. That's an avoidance. Yeah.
gotcha?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that I thought I was going to get it, but it was like, I think it was a little bit of magical thinking, but yeah.
Susan and I played a game called the Cancer Game, which was every show that we watched, we would see when they would mention cancer. It's amazing how many shows say something about cancer in them. And so we would just be watching them. We'd hear, oh, you're like a cancer. And we go, ah, there it is. There's the cancer. There it is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I like that sense of humor is beautiful. And I love it. That from both of you. But
yeah, it was great. There was my favorite one she said was we were watching The Blacklist, and
I love The Blacklist.
Yeah, there was a scene in there where Red goes into the hospital and he puts a pillow over someone's head, and they're like struggling, trying to fight to get out of it, and eventually they die. And afterwards, Susan looked at me and she said, "Now, when you do that to me, be more gentle," which I just thought was great. so at least we could joke about it. We could have some fun with it. So
we talked about that today in group, about how having a sense of humor and like trying to find humor in doesn't mean that it's not debilitating or scary or overwhelming, but trying to it's like kind of a way of taking your power back in a way, like being able to laugh at it a little.
Yeah. Someone's talking about groinals and people who are potentially underage. I love to give this example of, let's say that you're walking down the street, right? And there's twins coming at you. And one of the twins turned 18 1 minute ago. And the other twin will not be 18 for 20 more minutes. But they're identical twins, and therefore they're equally attractive. Is it okay to be attracted to the one that turned 18 a minute ago, but you still have 20 more minutes before you're allowed to be attracted to the other one? Just curious.
Between you and Tracy and the things you guys come up with.
Yeah, just the wacky stuff that's in this brain. Let me tell you. Let me just tell you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just constantly laugh through webinars, I think.
Let's see what else. Written scripts. Lots of people supporting each other, which I always think is fun.
It's my favorite. I love it. Supportive OCD community. Yeah. It's hard to filter through questions today, though.
Yeah. Oh, fact. They don't diagnose OCD based on brain scans with current technology. Correct. And just be wary, everyone, because there are some people out there, I will not name names, but sometimes they show up on TV that saying that, oh, yes, this is a brain scan. And look, you could just tell by the brain scan it's OCD. No, you can't. And when people come to me and they're like, oh, I did this certain clinic and I got this brain scan done and everything like that, and look at it, and I'm sure you'll be fascinated to read about it. I'm like, I no, I will not, because there is nothing that a brain scan is going to tell me about your OCD, just so you know. Yeah.
Could you imagine? They'd put mine up and it would say, you do not want this brain. Pass. Hard pass.
Hard pass. Yeah. It's like from Young Frankenstein, Abby Normal.
That's me. Hey. Like somebody needs a brain. No, you don't even want a new brain. Just keep yours.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about guilt too. People are talking about guilt, even if they, maybe saw somebody in a bikini, and how do I know if they were over or under 18 or something like that? It was a quick flash on a TV or something of that nature. What I think it's important, Mackenzie, and I'd love to hear your take on it because, the DSM definition of OCD talks about discomfort or anxiety, but OCD does more than that. It's shame and it's guilt and it's disgust, right? And I'm sure that all of those emotions have played a role in your life at some point as you've had to deal with and navigate your OCD, right?
Yeah. I think guilt was one of the main like fuels for my guilt and shame, but it's really hard when OCD tries to like use guilt to feed into like things that okay, hold on. Example. I think I've talked to you about this before, but basically until I was 28, my life was a dumpster fire until I found ERP therapy. And unfortunately, that meant that I was pregnant twice during that dumpster fire. And not unfortunately, but that my mental health was a mess. And so I have my
You meant, unfortunately, you don't really like your children. You
Yeah.
totally meant that as the way it was.
That's going to stick with me all night. Thank you. So what I mean is my OCD really fed on my youngest was diagnosed with autism. And there's like all of these, because my OCD loved to Google at the time. So it was like,
oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're stressed during pregnancy, then, that could have been the cause. And my OCD fed on that guilt so much. And like just realizing, like, I think there's so much acceptance in treatment too, like acceptance in like, you can't change the past. You can't change any, like you just have to continue to live and navigate. But I think guilt, when OCD takes hold of it, it runs wild with it. And it's one of the biggest fuels, or it was the biggest fuel for me with, I think for that, it was more of like a hyper responsibility. Like I felt like if I would have gotten help sooner, if I would have, and it doesn't, I mean, the craziest thing was when I accepted and like was able to be present as a parent, then she thrived. Like,
right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So, and heck yeah, like doing just amazing things. And, but yeah, I think OCD, just that hyper responsibility, I guess. Quentin, I love you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then, here's the other piece. For those parents who don't have OCD, who have children who have autism, should they have been doing compulsions, and maybe then their children wouldn't have autism?
Yeah. But
they just didn't know to do compulsions, right? Because they didn't have OCD raving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But does that make sense? Like that guilt of, I was so well. Like
of course, 100%. Yes.
I was so unwell that
what parent doesn't blame themselves if their child has something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a mental or a physical thing. Any parent who's ever had a child who's had something, go wrong like that in like cancer or leukemia or childhood diabetes, and they all blame themselves. They all think, what did I do wrong? Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Why? What did I eat something wrong when I was pregnant, or just did we walk through a place where there was a bad chemical and we breathed it in and it got into the sperm and then that got into the egg? Just
no, but really, the amount of times I had my house sprayed for palmetto bugs, my brain was like, you did it. You did it. Bug spray, all the things. Also, though, it's like perspective switches too. As my oldest has OCD, like I'm like, you know what? Finding purpose in the pain. Like, hey, I struggled so that other people don't have to. Like, we can figure, like, I knew what to look for. I knew where to send her. Right. So I think, yeah, it's like perspective switches too are important.
Yeah.
For sure.
How's life different post-treatment?
Oh God. I'm living. Mm-hmm. I always say I was so afraid of dying that I wasn't living. And the only thing scarier than my OCD was what I was living in. So just being like learning who I am, being present as a mom, I remember being so jealous of people who could just, oh, let's go to the beach. Oh, I was like, oh gosh, like I have to put everything in a separate bag. I have to think about brain eating amoebas. I have all these things that are going through my head, and like just kind of not effortlessly, but more fluidly, like moving through life and like enjoying life and being present. Like that is just like, I can't describe how life-changing that is for me and for my family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Before we go, I think you have a little announcement for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. So, NOCD is always really aware of different ways that, OCD can show up. And the start of a new school year is a stressful time. But if your child is struggling with OCD, it can be even more stressful.
Mhm.
So in order to like help that and knowing how confusing things are, they're doing like one-on-one conversations with experienced clinicians, to kind of talk about what treatment could look like, how ERP therapy could help, and try to help everyone get connected to care. So that is an awesome thing, opportunity. And I just always like, it's just such a seamless process to get connected to care, through NOCD. So if you see issues, where your child is struggling to navigate through things like sleep schedules, questions around how it may or may not impact, treatment with NOCD, if it's OCD, is an amazing opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to book a free consultation with an expert clinical leader at NOCD and get the answers you need to provide the right care and support for your child and your family, we've got that available. So go to NOCD.com. That's NOCD.com. We would love to help you out and make sure that you live the lives that you want to live, your children live the lives that they want to live, and nobody's living the life that OCD wants them to live. Mackenzie, always a fun time to spend an hour with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And everyone, no, I'm not going to do that again.
Oh my God. I was waiting for it. I was like, I'm going to hear it in my sleep.
Everyone, thank you all for being here tonight. Have a good one. We'll talk to you all sometime soon. We'll be back again next week with another